Sorry. Before that, Callista, um, let's talk about your timesheet because the Excel one is incorrect. I tried editing and sending it, but it wouldn't let me edit. And I don't know what's going. I mean, I don't know what that is. It seems to be something embedded into the Word document. You just need to change the number of total hours. It's not 28, right? It's 24, but I'm not able to change it.
Uh, okay, um,
So if you could just change it in your old Word document, just change it to 28, I mean 24. That's the only change. Um, but that's not happening. But let's talk about it over break. Um, so review questions. What I'd like to do is I would read the question and I'd like you all to take turns popcorning the answer. Okay, so um, the most basic circuitry computer language is
a machine language.
yes. Do you have a cold, DNA?
Yeah, I'm starting to get sick and I've just not been feeling good.
Yeah, it's going around. I think, you know, finally in Phoenix, it went below, I mean, it went below 70 degrees, for the low and below 60 degrees this morning. I mean, below 70 degrees this morning. Like, I think it was 65 or 66 this morning. It's been like the lows have been 90 or, 80s. It's never gone below that. So it's really nice, but this climate change also brings, some, or the weather change also brings some
A
sick.
couple months, like I think in August, it was like 103. I went outside and I was like, oh my gosh, today's a really nice day. And I was just walking around and I was like, I wonder what the temperature is. And I was like, it's 103. What?
Yeah, it's been crazy. It's been a crazy, crazy summer. Okay, question two. Languages that let you use an easily understood vocabulary of descriptive terms such as read, write, or add are known as
B, high level.
B, high-level languages. The rules of a programming language constitute its okay, Tyler, Callista, Renee, one of you.
Which one was it?
Three.
Three,
The
A,
rules.
syntax.
Yes. Number four, a dash translates high-level language statements into machine code. Renee or Callista,
What page are we on?
page are we on? I don't know. It's the it's the review questions, the answers to the review questions that you do as part of the reading assignments.
Would it be C?
Yes, C compiler. But this is not specific to Java, right? That's something you have to understand. In Java, what happens? What does the compiler do?
It translates the code into byte.
Into what?
It translates the code into, hold on.
Bytecode.
Yeah.
Bytecode. Okay. Did you just say byte?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Okay. Named computer memory locations are called. Renee, it's your turn. We're on number 5.
What chapter? Because I'm still looking for the chapter that we're doing.
Chapter 1.
Chapter
What was
1.
that, Emma? Yeah. Chapter 1, page 43.
Variables.
The individual operations used in a computer program are often grouped into logical units called. Okay, so we go back. So who started? Was that Dina?
procedures.
Yeah. Envisioning program components as objects that are similar to concrete objects in the real world is a hallmark of.
C, object-oriented programming.
Right. The value of an object's attributes are known as its state. I'm not sure if that was part of the,
State.
yeah. If that was part of the reading that I asked you to do or not. I know, I asked you not to read some certain pages. An instance of a class is a
C object.
C object. Java is architecturally
Neutral.
neutral. You must compile classes written in Java into we just talked about this.
A bytecode.
A bytecode. All Java programming statements must end with a
Semicolon.
semicolon. Arguments to methods always appear within
Parentheses.
parentheses. In a Java program, you must use dash to separate dots. Sorry, I gave away the answer. You must use dots to separate classes, objects, and methods. Okay. So we haven't done these things yet. We haven't done methods and, but we do use dots, right? When we do system dot out dot print line. So that's what we're doing there, but we'll learn more about that later. All Java applications must have a method named Callista.
Hello.
Number 15.
Would it be D?
No, it's
Main.
B. It's
Oh,
main.
B.
Yeah. I know we have public static void main string args, but the name of that method is the main method. Okay, so main is the name of the method. All the rest are different things, and we'll learn more about that later. Non-executing program statements that provide documentation are called
C,
Comment.
comments.
Yeah, C comments. Java supports 3 types of comments: dash, dash, and JavaDoc.
A, line and block.
Yeah, line and block. 18. Which of the following is not necessary to do before you can run a Java program?
C debugging.
Yeah. That's I don't know, that's not a great question. But the command to execute a compiled Java application is, this you should know. Java. Okay, so to compile a Java application, it's Java C, right? And then to run a Java the command to execute or run, that's what happens when you press the green and white triangle, green circle with the white triangle in Eclipse, or let me get the colors mixed up. But when we press the run button, the Java command gets executed, but the Java C gets executed constantly as you as you write your program, your code keeps compiling. Your Eclipse keeps compiling your code. You save text files containing Java source code using the file extension.
Java.
Not Java. Okay, so the one of the reasons we do review questions, yes, it's to review, but also I give a test that is just a review questions test, okay? And I don't give multiple choices. So it would be like whole sentences that, you would compile a Java program into dash, right? Into blank. So you then fill up the blank with the right answer. So I will not give you like 4 options. So you have to know the answers to the review questions once we, complete a chapter and really go into detail and learn those concepts. Like, for example, I will not expect you to know about, there's this question about classes, right? Or objects like that. I'm not going to expect you to know, but anything that you have learned in depth in this chapter, like, bytecode and Java C and Java and, things like that, you are supposed to know. So those can come, in your review questions test. So make corrections. If you got something wrong, please make those corrections so that you have the right answers that you can use to study for the test. Okay, let's do chapter 2, review questions. When number 1, when data cannot be changed after a class is compiled, the data is
B constant.
B constant. Which of the following is not a primitive data type in Java?
C sector.
C sector. Which of the following elements is not required in a variable declaration?
C assigned value.
C, an assigned value. The assignment operator in Java is
A.
A equals. Assuming you have declared shoe size to be a variable of type int, which of the following is a valid assignment statement in Java?
A shoe size equals 9.
A shoe size equals 9. Why is B not right and why is C not right?
Because B is double.
Very good. B needs to be double and C needs to be a string. Which of the following data types can store the value 0 using the least amount of memory?
D byte.
D byte. A Boolean variable can hold
D.
Mhm.
it's D, the value true or false. Boolean can only hold true or false. It cannot hold anything else. The value 137.68 can be held by a variable of type
C double.
actually float or double, right? Either of them can hold it. So the answer would be 2 of these are correct, which is D. An escape number 9. An escape sequence always begins with a
Equal sign.
And backslash.
no, a backslash. This is what we did yesterday. With the escape sequence, we did /n, and then if you wanted to escape the quote, then you do a slash, backslash double quote, or a backslash single quote. So an escape sequence always begins with a backslash. Which Java statement produces W on one line and XYZ on the next line?
C, system out print W/NXYZ.
Correct. The /n, right, is the new line. We did this in class yesterday. The remainder operator.
Must follow a division operation.
Not
Or
really.
a
It
quote.
doesn't. Actually, none of them is correct, right? It doesn't need to follow a division operation, and it doesn't provide the quotient, and it's represented by the percentage symbol, right? So none of those options are correct. It does the division operation internally, but and maybe that's why it's confusing, but I mean, you don't have to do a division operation to use the modulus. According to the rules of operator precedence, when division occurs in the same arithmetic statement as dash, the division operation always takes place first.
C, subtraction.
C, subtraction, right? It's the same rules as math, the operator precedence rules. The equal to relational operator is
B equal.
B equal. When you perform arithmetic with values of diverse types, Java, we talked about this yesterday.
Implicitly converts to a unifying type.
Very good. If you attempt to add a float and int in a byte, the result would be a float, right? We talked about this yesterday because that's a decimal number, right? And int and a byte cannot hold a decimal number, so it has to be a float. So that would be the unifying type if you added a float and an int and a byte. You use a dash to explicitly override an implicit type. And we talked about this yesterday too.
B, typecast.
B, typecast. Very good. In Java, what is the value of 3 plus 7 times 4 plus 2?
33.
33. And how did you get to 33? What was the operation that was done first?
I think I did 28. 28 plus, so 31 plus 2, 33. Yeah, so I just did the 28 first, so 7 times 4, 28.
Yeah, so the multiplication operation takes precedence over addition, right? So 7 times 4 happens first, that's 28, and then it's plus 3 plus 2. Which assignment is correct in Java? Number 18.
Double value.
Yes, double value equal to 2.12. Number 19, which assignment is correct in Java?
B double money equals to 1.0.
So you can do double money equal to 12, and you can do double money equal to 12.0D, right? So all of them are correct. And then number 20, which assignment is correct in Java?
C, char equals the little asterisk.
Yeah, because it's within a single quote. So B is incorrect because it's within a double quote. A is incorrect because it's and we'll talk more about that later. There are certain whole numbers that you can assign to char. But we'll talk more about that later. But A is incorrect because it's a decimal. Callista, I see, but do this later. I see that you've sent a PDF file and I cannot edit a PDF file, so it needs to be a Word document. So if you can, yeah, everything looks correct, except if you send it to me as a Word document, then I can sign it instead. Okay, let's open up concept questions. I would like you guys to do a test next week, Monday or Tuesday. Which day works well for you? Historically, Mondays haven't worked well. I mean, that's what I've seen. Students will come back from the weekend and say, "Oh, I forgot about the test." There's no point in doing a test if you don't prepare for the test. So I'm fine with doing the test on a Tuesday, but if you say Monday, you have the weekend to study, but I would really, I don't want anybody to say, "Oh, I forgot about the test."
Tuesday works best for me. My sister can watch Mika when she's off.
Okay, so let's do Tuesday if that works for everybody. Is that good? So you would have both a programming test and a concept questions test. Okay, so I would like you to be working on. So I know memorizing answers is not, like sometimes people look down on it, but with definitions, I think it's really good if you can memorize the key phrases, right? So for example, what is a variable, right? If I just ask you, I mean, you all have worked with variables, you all know what variables is at this point, but to have a good definition that you have memorized, that if somebody asks you what is a variable, that would be the best way to do it in an interview, right? Instead of like trying to come up with words that try to explain what you know, having a good working definition for an example would be the best choice there. Okay, so please work on memorizing key phrases for all of these concept questions. Right. So what is a data type? What is a variable? Like these, you should have some good definitions for these memorized for these questions. Okay, so quickly, again, I would like you all to popcorn answers. What is a variable? Does everybody know what we're looking at? It's the answers to concept questions in module 3.
A variable is a named memory location that can store a value and the value can change.
Very good. What are some rules while creating a variable? And we didn't really talk about this in class, but we just talked about the variable naming convention, and that's what it's used. But then there are certain rules around it. So yeah, go ahead. So what are some rules while creating a variable?
Variables can begin with a letter, dollar, or underscore, but cannot start with a number.
Very good. So you cannot do the number 5 size, right? You can do size 5. We've been doing number 1 equal to, right? Number 2 equal to, but you can't do 2 number equal to. It cannot start with a digit. It has to start either with a letter or a dollar or an underscore. But dollar and underscore, we don't use that, but those are the rules. Anything else?
A variable name can consist of capital letters A through Z, lowercase letters A through Z, and digits 0 through 9. The first
Very
character cannot begin with a digit. So
Mhm. Yeah. And then anything else? You cannot use a keyword as a variable name, right? For example, you cannot say class. You cannot say int class equal to, because class is a reserved keyword. You cannot say int public equal to, right? Because public is a reserved keyword. So you cannot use keywords as variable names. Okay, question number. Sorry, go ahead, Renee. What is the data type?
It's a type of data. Oh, go ahead.
Data type describes the data that can be performed on the data.
Okay, so data type, three things, right? The type of data that can be stored, how much memory it takes, and what operations you can do on that data. So you have to talk about three different things when you're talking about a data type. Okay. Please make changes if you didn't do, I mean, if your answer needed some additions or if you didn't have a complete answer, that's the reason we are discussing it, so that you will have the right answers in your notes. And then explain the primitive data types in Java with examples, explain what each one does and the memory they need. Dine, would you like to do that?
I kind of just recreated the chart that we made in class.
Okay.
So I put them in order from byte, short, int, long, double, float, char, boolean.
Okay.
For number of bytes, I put 1 byte, 2 for short, 4 for int, 8 for long, 8 for double, 4 for float, 2 for char. And I just put byte through long are used for whole numbers. Double and float are used for decimals, chars used for single characters, and booleans used for true or false.
Okay, very good. I'm just Renee, I'm looking at your submission. And I know this is probably what Word did for you, but you have a capital B for a byte, capital S for a short. With the capital B and capital S, that actually makes it not a primitive data type. Okay, it makes it a class. So they have to be lowercase letters. Okay, so even if Word auto corrects it, please make it not change that. So all of them need to be lowercase. They all primitive data types have to start with a lowercase letter, because the same primitive data types, well, not int, int will be integer, like you're doing integer.parseInt and double.parseDouble. Those are classes in Java, right? And that's why you're able to use the dot operation. So integer with a capital I, double with a capital D are classes. They're not primitive data types. But double with a lowercase d and int with a lowercase I and b with a lowercase boolean, boolean with a lowercase b are all primitive data types. What is declaring a variable? What is initializing a variable? Alan, would you like to take a turn? Or Calista, would you?
Yeah, variable declarations are statements that introduce a variable and associate it with an identifier, and initialization is the act of assigning a value to a variable.
Okay. Did you also mention data type when declaration? Did you say that again?
I did not specify data type. Yeah, you also specify the data type of the variable.
Yeah. So declaration, you specify the data type and give it an identifier. That is the variable's name. And initialization is when you use the assignment operator and give it a starting value or an initial value. What is the assignment operator?
The equal sign.
The equal sign, what does it do?
Assign the value of the right operand to the left operand.
Very good. Okay, so don't just say, so if I ask you what's the assignment operator, don't start with equals, right? The assignment operator is the equal to symbol, and then it assigns the value of the right operand to the value of the left operand. Okay, so finish it. What are arithmetic and always, for all of these things, it'll be great if you can give an example. So what is declaring a variable? What is initializing a variable? You can say int size semicolon. This is declaring a variable. Int size equal to 5. That's initializing a variable, right? So if in addition to your definition, make sure that your explanation has an example. And when you're asked a question in an interview, always provide an example, right? Even like, interviewers are not going to say, what is the variable? Give an example, right? They may ask you, hey, have you used variables in Java? What do you know about variables? Like that's how they would ask you, right? It's not going to look like a formal question, describe a variable and what are the primitive data types in Java. Like they're not going to say that. They're just going to say, so what do you know about variables in Java? That they might ask, but you need to give a complete answer, right? So, and you need to know all of these things to be able to give a complete answer with an example. What are arithmetic operators?
Addition adds two operands, number 1 plus number 2. Subtraction subtract.
Yeah, you could just say, these are the arithmetic operators.
Subtraction, modulus.
Multiplication, division, and you use them to perform calculations. What is an expression?
A line of code that holds information.
Does anybody that's a really vague definition. So does anybody have anything more specific? What is an expression?
An expression is a combination of operators, constants, and variables. It may consist of one or more operands and 0 or more operators to produce a value.
Very good, right? That is a more complete definition. So Callista, can you say that again?
An expression is a combination of operators, constants, and variables. An expression may consist of one or more operands and 0 or more operators to produce a value.
Okay, so for example, when you write a formula, right? You have operators, you have constants, you have variables, you can have more than one operator, right? And that when evaluated produces a value. What is a constant? When will you use it? And we worked on this yesterday, but I know I gave you the question before. So what is a constant and how would you use it?
A constant is a value that cannot be changed while the program is running. I would use a constant if I were going to put down how many different departments a store has.
Okay, that's an example. Does anybody have another answer to that?
We can declare constants in Java using the static and final keywords. The former is used for memory management, while the latter represents the property that the value of a variable can't be changed.
Yeah, so static, we haven't yet learned about it. So let's leave that alone for the moment. Okay. So but you've learned about final. So Callista, I know you wrote the answer before I taught you constant, so that's fine. But for the moment, let's just talk about final, right? You use the final keyword to make a value a constant. Um, um, so constant means once the value is assigned, it cannot be changed. And then talk about the naming convention too. Like the naming convention in Java for a constant is you use all caps and words separated by underscores. And you would use it to represent values that will not change during the execution of your program, right? So it could be, for example, it could be pi could be a constant. A number of days in a week could be a constant. So give an example. Then what is the main method?
The main method in Java is the entry point for any Java application. When a Java program is running, the JVM looks for the main method to begin execution. The signature of the main method is crucial because it must be recognized by the JVM for the program to start.
Very good. And that's a great answer, right? So it's not a one-line answer. It really gives you a background on what the JVM is looking for, right? Because when the JVM wants to find the entry point into the application, it looks for a method with that exact signature, right? Public static void main string args. It looks for that. If it cannot find that, it cannot start your program. Okay, so please take a few minutes and update any answer you need to update. Make sure you have good examples. It's okay if you don't resubmit it, but I do want you to have I mean, if your answer was like way wrong in something, resubmit so that I know you have the right answer. But if you were just adding little things to your answer, please do that, add examples and make sure. What I would like to see is for you to have these ready so that like I would have like a cheat sheet, before I went to interviews. That would have everything that I wanted to quickly look over before I went in, right? It would have, all the definitions, it would have, or, most of the definitions that I would want to go over so that I'm speaking clearly, I have a definition. Because when you go into an interview, you're already nervous, right? You will forget things. And if you don't have these things, in memory, then you would stumble even more. So I try and have this cheat sheet where I have everything that I want to look over before I go in, right? So I want these concept answers to concept questions to be like that for you all. Right? So have them like ready with all your examples so that, before you go to an interview, you can just quickly go over these answers. Let me know when you're done updating. So maybe take the next couple of minutes and update and let me know when you're done. I liked how you all used the react button. So yeah, the thumbs up button would work great. Instead of me, looking for your nods, thumbs up button works great.
What did we get for number 3? What is a data type?
Data type describes, so if you look in your textbook, it's page number 50. Okay, data type describes the type of data that can be stored, how much memory the item occupies, and what types of operations can be performed on the data. Dine, do you take Tylenol or something like that helps, just helps you just feel better when you have a cold or something?
I do, but we have it downstairs and I'm currently upstairs.
Okay. Or maybe during break or something. Huh? We'll have a break in another 10 minutes or so. Also drink honey, warm water with honey. It's a vitamin C, orange juice. Thanks, Tyler. So, when we're waiting, pick up one of those, what's that? Those W3C, was it? Those websites that have these little Java programs that you can solve. Oh, also wanted to ask, does anybody want a license to Google Carrier Certificate? If you do, let me know, email me and let me know this is what I would like to pursue. And Callista and Alan, we are able to provide, the Codify Foundation is a nonprofit that helps support our students in some things. So we are able to provide a stipend when you guys go to ACES. And I was talking to Callista about it yesterday. For just a small spending stipend for food and transportation expenses. But I was telling Callista yesterday, bring some snacks and food with you. I stayed at Best Western for a day and got amazing breakfast. Scrambled eggs and bacon and fruit and, potatoes and everything, and then moved to this expensive hotel because it was closer to the conference and got nothing. Okay. So we're staying, Sea Alaska, they said, is staying at Grand Hyatt. This time I just booked at the hotel that comes with the convention, which is with the conference, which is the Grand Hyatt, which is a fancy hotel, which will not give you breakfast. And I'm not sure if they have a microwave or a fridge there either, all of which Best Western does amazingly. So bring snacks. And breakfast in the hotel would be very expensive. Room service, all of that, just very, very expensive. So look for cheaper options, bring some snacks, be prepared. Don't be taken by surprise. 。 Yeah, Renee, maybe that's something that you can do over fall break. That's an option too. You have a week there. That's something that you can get started during fall break as well. I'd like you all to get done with all of the portfolio projects for Free Code Camp, because you have a week there and take a break, but also spend some time up front, finish all that you want to finish, and then take a little bit of a break. Okay, let's just take our break now so that we can get started with decision-making statements when we come back. So let's come back at 33:38. Great. Okay, so let's first create a new package for decision making in Eclipse. Please open Eclipse if you haven't done so already. Okay, so I've created a package called decision making. Alan, if you want to go ahead and just work on again the programming exercise and decision making, that'd be good. And then not yesterday's homework, but the previous day's homework, I asked you to submit lead code. And I don't think you did it. You submitted like the eggs and thing that you had already submitted before. So
okay.
yeah, so just a few lead code problems that you did, just take screenshots and it's okay if it doesn't fully fit. I just want to know, which problems you chose.
Okay.
Okay, so let's first talk about relational operators. I'm calling this relational operators example. So the relational operators are greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, equal to. What do I do dots here? It's response. Greater than. Okay, so these are the 6 relational operators: greater than, less than, greater than, equal to, less than, equal to, not equal to. So when you use, so say you have 2 variables. So when you compare two variables, right, using one of the relational operators. So I am checking here if length one, or we're just using the relational operator with a length one and length two, right? So we're seeing if length one is greater than length two. So when you use a relational operator in an expression, it results in a Boolean. Okay, so if I print out this, it says false. So that's because length one is not greater than length two. Right? So if I make that a less than, right, then it's a true. If I make both of them the same value, then use a less than or equal to, what would the result be?
True.
It'll be true. Right? What about if I use a greater than or equal to? Tyler,
It would be
Still true.
true. No worries. Callista, what would be the result of this operation? Length one is 5, length two is 6. What would be the result of this operation?
False.
False. Okay. So this is something that you should not do, right? You have to use a double equals. This double equals is equality, equal to is assignment operator, and that didn't change, right? So so when you want to test for equality, always use the two equals. Okay, so and another thing to remember is when you use the relational operator, the result of that operation is a Boolean value. Okay, so okay, so that's important to know and to remember. It's because going forward, we will use relational operators in our if statements, in our loops, you know, or while loops or for loops, but we will not explicitly say, you know, explicitly look at the result or store the result in a Boolean variable and then look at it. Okay, so this is something very important that you should remember, which is why I didn't start directly with the if statement, but started with just looking at relational operators and what the result of using a relational operator is. Okay, now let's write. Does everybody have this down? Any questions with this? No? Okay. Okay, so let's create another class. I'm calling it if else example. Okay, so we're going to use the if keyword. Well, let's first create. Let's use the same example. Length 1 equal to 5. Length 2 equal to 6. Okay, now we're going to compare these two lengths. We're going to say if length 1 is greater than length 2. Okay, now you see that we have another set of curly braces here. We call this the if block. Okay. So make sure that your formatting is correct. So, these are when you click on a curly brace, you see that Eclipse shows you where it's matching curly braces. So make sure that the matching curly braces are all on the same column. The matching curly brace for this is this, and the matching curly brace for this is this. Okay, so this is the if block. So we'll just do a print statement here. If block. Okay, so if it comes inside the if block, what does it mean? The lengths. Right, it means that length 1 is greater than length 2. Right, and if length 1 is not greater than length 1, what would happen? What will happen if I run this program now? Nothing happens if I run this program now, right? Because there is nothing to output. Why? Because our length 1, see, so now this condition is evaluated. Length 1 greater than length 2. Is length 1 greater than length 2? No, this results in a false, right? So only if this condition is met would these lines of code be executed. Okay, so the statements. Okay, the statements in the if block will be executed only if the condition is true. The condition is not true, and so these statements will not be executed. So let's make it to be true. Let's make that 7. Right, so if length is 7, length 1 is 7, and length 1 is 6, then would these statements be executed?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so these statements got executed. Inside the if block, length 1 is greater than length 2. Right? So that's the thing with the if block. And that's why we call it decision making. So, if this condition is true, the statements in that block will be executed. If the condition is false, then the if block will not be executed. Okay. We can also have okay, so let's actually go back to our former length 1 and length 2, where length 1 was 5 and length 2 was 6. Okay, so nothing happens, but watch this. I'm adding a semicolon here. Okay, it doesn't give me a syntax error. And I am running the program, and you see that these statements got executed. Okay, so what happened? Why?
It finished off that operator at length if length 1 is greater than length 2. It already executed. It won't matter, I guess. Really, what happens afterwards?
What happened was that if we use a semicolon after the if statement, it's as though the if statement is finished. It ended there. You end the if statement. So this is like, you just decided to add just a set of curly braces and write code inside that. Okay, which is not a good practice to do. And we'll talk about why. We'll talk about scope, and we'll talk about why you just don't create this is called a block. It's called a block. So if you have a pair of curly braces, then that creates a block. But there are certain implications to having a block. And you don't want to do that. So don't do this. Okay, I see students doing this all the time because you get so used to adding a semicolon at the end of every statement. And if you add a semicolon to the end of the if, it would end the if block. Okay, so let's just say don't do this. Okay, so then this is not considered an if block at all if you have a semicolon. Okay, so don't use semicolons at the end of your if statements. Here's the other thing. I'm just going to comment out these. Did everybody get that? Did everybody get what we did with the semicolon? Yes. Okay, so I'm just going to comment out these two statements, just the curly braces. Okay, I'm commenting out the curly braces. So if I comment out the curly braces and I run this, it prints one line. Length 1 is greater than length 2. Okay, it doesn't print inside the if block, but it prints length 1 greater than length 2. So can somebody tell me what you think is happening? What happens is that if you don't have curly braces, then the first statement is taken to be part of the if block. Okay, and all the rest of the statements are not considered part of the if block. So this is as though you wrote code like this. Okay, you don't need to do this. I'm just gonna do this to illustrate. So if you wrote something like this. Okay, this, if I didn't have curly braces, is the equivalent of this. Just the first statement is taken to be part of the if block. Okay, so it takes the first statement to be part of the if block and then this statement to be outside of the if block. So my my strong suggestion is that every time you use an if, use curly braces to denote where the if block is. Okay, because otherwise it does things that you might not understand, or that could be hard to debug. Because it takes in your textbook, they actually do this all the time. They just do, if, and then they don't add curly braces, right? They'll write a statement like this. And this is okay. This is correct. But anytime you go and add another statement, then it is not considered part of the if block if you don't have curly braces. So always add curly braces to the if block. Okay, as a I think that's a good practice. And maybe when you have when you become a more experienced programmer, you can write code like this. But at this point, I think writing code like this is just it's confusing to you. So always add curly braces. Did you get this? I know this is a little bit more complex than what the first thing that we did. Did you get why
I
it behaved?
think I understand, but
Okay.
it's still a little bit weird to me because they're still in that bigger curly brackets that we put under the public static void main.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I
Yes.
don't get why it show up still.
Okay, so this is the we call this the method body. This is the body of the method, of this main method. Okay, so you will see that now you will if will have its block, and else will have its block. So there are many new constructs that you will learn. You can have an if inside an if. So if you have an if inside an if, you'll have another set of curly braces inside the if. Like, for example, like say I wrote a if, let's see, don't do this, and just this, I'm just doing this to illustrate. So I can have another if. I can say if length 1 is less than 10, then print something else, right? So I have now this outer if block that ends here. I mean, outer main, the method body, right? That's here. This is the if block. This is the outer if block, and this is for the if inside this, and I can have another if inside this too, right? I can just keep going. Okay, I can have, this is called nesting. I can have multiple ifs inside ifs. Okay, so as you write more complex code, you'll find yourself using just the many different blocks of code. You will so this block is associated with this if. This block is associated with this if. And this block is associated with this if. Right? And this block is associated with this method. And this outer curly brace is associated with this class. It's the class body. Okay, so you will have these multiple blocks as you write more complex code. Okay, so this would be a very simple if statement where there's just one line. Okay, if you only have an if statement that has a single line of code, then you can do this. But the moment you go and add a second line of code to this, then it needs to be inside curly braces.
Okay.
Okay, so if you had only one line of code inside your if block, you can get away with no curly braces. But the moment you add a second line, if you want it to be inside the if block, you need to have the curly braces. So what I'm saying is, even if you have one line of code inside your if block, go ahead and use those curly braces. Don't write an if block without curly braces, even though it is allowed, because it introduces the chances for errors. Okay, so in your textbook, they will have one line if statements that look like this. Okay, and this is correct. But my suggestion is don't do this. My expectation is that you will not write one line if statements without curly braces, that you will use curly braces until you become a much more confident programmer, at which point, yeah, you can absolutely write this. It's not wrong. But at this point, it's confusing. Okay, so I'm just going to remove all of these. And I'm going to say, always add curly braces.
I think I did my curly braces wrong because it's not printing out.
Go ahead and share. I disable it. Sorry. Yeah, you can share now.
So for this, would the curly brace go here? Or
No, you're good, except that you have an unnecessary set of curly braces here. You should remove those. Otherwise, it's not printing because length 1 is 5 and length 2 is 6, right? So length 1 is not greater than length 2. That's why it's not printing. So if you change length 1 to be 7, no. I mean, yeah, or you could do that. Yeah, that's good.
I just thought you meant like since there's two lines here, we would have to add the curly right here and then below it.
No, I meant this set of curly braces. Because you have 2 lines, you need to have this set of curly braces.
Okay.
Every line should not be in its own set of curly braces. The whole if block should be within its set of curly braces.
And then if we're creating a new if block, that's when we nest it under.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, so then if I add another line of code here that says, oops, right, so I'm checking if length 1 is greater than length 2. And length 1 is not greater than length 2. So if I execute this code now, what would print?
Outside the if block.
Outside the if block would print. Okay, only this line will print. Because the way your code executes is it'll go line by line, it'll come to the if, it'll check if length 1 greater than length 2, length 1 is not greater than length 2, so it will completely skip the if block and then come here and execute this line of code, and then the program will end. Okay, so if I run this now, outside the if block will print. Okay, so just try this. Just try different things with this, and see, just make sure that you understood this correctly. Like try what I did with the curly braces. So just play with it for a few minutes.
Mine didn't print the outside of if block.
Did you put it outside the if block?
Yes. Or
It
is it?
has, but you see, remember you changed the condition?
Oh, so it would have.
So the condition that I'm trying to show you is if this condition is not satisfied, which will happen if you did length 1 greater than length 2.
Oh, okay. So. Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop your sharing, but I just would like you to just try different things with this and make sure you understood this correctly. And let me know if you're good to move on. Dina, did you take anything?
I did, but I'm just waiting for it to kick in.
Can we go ahead? Okay. So let's add an else to this, an else block. Okay, so you can have an if without the else, like we just did, but you cannot have the else without the if. Okay, so you have to have an if to use the else keyword. Okay, so sometimes what would happen is I've had students who had done this, right? Why is this a syntax error?
Because it's finishing off the if statement.
Yeah, because it finished off the if statement here because of the semicolon, right? And so this else would say, syntax error, or sometimes it would say else without an if. Actually, it's not giving you a good error, right? It's not saying, hey, you have an else without an if. It just says syntax error on token else, right? So you might be thinking, oh, I have an if statement right there, and I have an else here. Why is this giving me a syntax error? It's giving you a syntax error because you had that semicolon there. Okay, so else. Else without an if. Okay, so else, if this condition is not true, right? So if this condition is true, this will execute. If this condition is not true, then the else will execute. Okay, you cannot have an else without an if. And then right? So statements in the if block will be executed only if the condition is true. The statements in the else block will be executed only if the condition is false. Right, so execute this inside the else block. Length 1 is less than length 2, and then this always prints. Right? This always prints because this prints if this condition is true. This block prints if this condition is false. This prints regardless because it's outside the if block and outside the else block. Okay, so now I'm going to stop sharing and I want you to start working on these. These are just very simple problems, very similar to what we just did. But it's just a little bit of practice and then we'll do a little more. I'll put that in chat. Alan, are you doing okay?
Yeah. Working on some LeetCode stuff.
Why don't you guys share your screens so I can see? So your condition can look like this. For example, where I'm saying if a particular value is greater than 5, right? You don't need to always have compared to variables. You can say if length is greater than 5, right? Or if length is less than 5. You can also do that. You don't need to always you don't need to have a length 1 and a length 2 to compare. You can compare it with a constant value as well. Does that make sense?
Can you reiterate that again? That
Sure.
was
Your condition can look like length less than 5. Okay, so you can say if length less than 5, I'm putting that in chat, right? Do something. It
Oh,
doesn't, yeah. So what's on the right side can be just a value. It can be a constant. Um, you don't need to have a variable. You don't need to always compare two variables. You can just compare it with a value. Does that make sense, Callista?
yeah.
Dine, this doesn't have, very much logic. So it's okay. You don't need to write the pseudocode for just, the problem number 1, because you're just checking if something's greater than 5 or not. Callista, so just have either have length 1 or length 2. Don't have both. Like have either line 7 or just have one length. So, or just have Just call it length or call it something else.
So something like this.
Mhm.
Okay.
Renee, keep going. Do number 3, number 4. Keep going. Create a new program, Renee. Callista, don't forget the curly braces, the if block. Calista, have you done one?
Think so.
Make sure you're in lines 11, sorry, lines 12 and 13 should be one tab in. Dine, you don't need to have two variables, right? Like I put on chat, you can just have one variable. That's fine. I mean, you can have two, but you can also have just length 1 greater than 5, if that's easier to understand. Yeah, this is good too. This is good too, because your length to will remain 5. And that's fine. But do you understand the other way of doing it? That's my question. Okay. Calista, did you run your program?
I don't see anything
Why?
because I need the else statement.
Yeah, you can do that, or you can change the value of length, right, to be less than 5 on line 7. Not that. Line 7.
So
I am saying that I am asking you to write a program that checks if a value is less than 5, right? So you can't make it greater than 5. I'm asking you to write a program that it's less than 5, but what you can change, equal to length, you can make length less than 5, right? So you can say length equal to 4.
Oh, okay.
Now run your program. Always when you write a program, run it to make sure that it's working. Tina, do you see the extra curly brace that you have there? This one. Oh. Oh, no, it's just a formatting problem. Yeah, no. Yeah. And then this one needs to be one tab out. That's it. No, that was correct. Yeah, yeah. Okay, for that number being odd or even, you need to use some logic there. Renee and Tyler, I want you to be thinking about logic first. What makes a number odd or even? Think about it. And then think about how you will check that. So if I give you a number, say 5. Is that number odd or even? And then what did you do to find out if it's odd or even? What mathematical operation did you do to find out if it's odd or even? Okay, so think about it that way. And then take another number, 6. What mathematical operation did you do to find out if it was odd or even?
So there's something wrong with my if else example. I was wondering if I can get help with that.
Sure. Just save it, Dini.
I did try saving it, but it has this little error right here.
Yeah, but you see, yeah, there you go.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, very good, Dini. Renee. Tyler, talk to me.
I'm not sure how to. So it says enter it accepts a number, so that's the J option, right?
Mhm.
And then the only thing I can think of if it's odd or even if it's divisible by two, that's the only thing I can think of. But I'm trying to see how I can write that.
If it's divisible by two and what? What do you mean by what do you mean when you say if it's divisible by two?
Oh, and it's not a decimal or like not. It's a whole and it's a whole number, I guess.
It's a whole yeah. So if you divide by zero and you get a whole number, how else can you phrase that? You've done some problems that way, right? So you've done some problems where you divided something by a number, and if it was you found out what the quotient was and what the remainder was. So how would you rephrase your problem in terms of that?
Would it be like if it has no remainder?
Yeah.
Oh, I kind of get it now. Hold on. Let me try it.
Calista, if block um be careful with your curly braces. See, all statements should be within the if block. So if you wanted this to be inside the if block, it needs to be here within the curly braces.
Oh, okay.
This is what I would suggest. Write the if statement, immediately start a curly brace. Write the else keyword, immediately start a curly brace. Okay, so you're missing a curly brace here, and you're missing two curly braces here. Yeah, and then you also need curly braces around the if. So not there, not there. Before the system dot out. Yeah, press enter. Yeah, press enter there. And then move the statement inside. The second statement needs to move outside of the if and else because you want to print executed successfully regardless of whether it was a success or a failure. Okay, good. I think we should take a break at this point. It's 43, and let's come back at 58. Okay, let's get started. I'm gonna leave odd or even for you to finish as homework. Or maybe not even that, something maybe simpler. But I mean, if you started working on it, I'd like you to finish it. There's also voting age, so you get age from the user. If their age is um, greater than or equal to 18, then they can vote, right? Otherwise, they can't vote. And then I also have this problem about something else, some triangle thing, but I will add that to homework. I'd like to move on to using else ifs. Okay, so right now, what you have with your if and with your else, you can only check two things, right? So if that condition is true, then something, if that condition is not true, then something else. What if you wanted to check multiple things, right? Also, well, let's talk about a few things. Callista and Alan, if you don't mind, could you stop sharing? Callista, are you there? Okay, so you can have you, we lost Rennie. Okay, so you can have multiple if statements. Okay, like okay, we had an if and an else there, we can have another if, right? If sorry, length. You don't need to do this, I just wanted to show you this. If length 1, let's say you wanted to check another condition less than 5. So you can have several if statements, within your code. But remember that they're parallel to one another. So when would this get executed? Or I mean, they're sequential, right? So once this if and else gets executed, then this if would get executed, right? So your program would execute sequentially. It'll check if this condition is met. If this condition is met, it will execute the if block. If this condition is not met, it will execute the else block, right? And then it'll print outside the if block, and then it comes here, and then it'll check if length is less than 5, and then it will execute, right? So you can have multiple if blocks within your code. Does that make sense? Okay, so and they don't need to be related, right? I mean, I could declare another variable int size equal to 5 and then check, if size is less than 5, right? So you could be checking, independent things. Size is not related to length, but I'm checking length first and then I'm checking size. Okay, so that's one thing that I would like you to know is you can have as many if blocks as you want within your code. What we are going to do now is okay, Renee says her internet cut out. So Renee, it's a good thing you're recording. Maybe you can send it off to, oh, you texted me, you sent me a message too. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is let me just add a print statement here. We are going to have multiple if and we're going to connect multiple if and else's. Okay, and there are scenarios in which you have to do this, where you have several ifs, and then some scenarios in which you have to do an if else. If else if we call it. Okay, so if, else if, else if, else if, right? For example, the example that we're going to do is if day of week is 1, then it's Monday. Else, if day of week is 2, then the day is Tuesday. Else, if day of week is 3, then is Wednesday, right? You have now 7 options there, not just 2, right? So that is what we're going to be working on next. Where is this? That's an outage. Okay, so I'm just calling it if else if example. Let's get day of week from user. Okay, so let's do string day. Yeah, so instead of doing just an else, what we're going to do is an else if. Okay, so if we do an else, so now we're combining the else along with an if. And if we do an else if, then you can add another condition. Okay, so else if day of week equal to 2. Okay, and so on. So what I would like you to do is just finish this off for me. And I'd like you, and I'm going to stop sharing, and you can, I'll give you a few minutes to take this down, and then I'd like you to finish this off. and then go up to 7. So we'll stop sharing. You guys can share and show me as you finish off the code. Please don't copy paste. Please type it. Okay, if you're done with the program, run it, see what happens. Give it different days a week. Hey, Renee. Glad they got you back earlier.
Yeah, they said that the service is going to be in and out, so I might be in and out of the class.
Okay. Just do a select all. Dine, just select all. Okay. Yeah. It's just asking you, it's just telling you to save all your files. That's all. So Renee, what we've been doing is if else if. I'm not sure when you cut out. I think just before we started this. So can someone explain this to her? Callista, go ahead and explain.
So we did the if else if.
Why would we use if else if?
Because if it's day, I can't put it into words.
Anybody else? Tyler.
I can give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
So you enter in a day of the week right here. So like on the number of the week, and then if the day of the week is equal to 1, then the system will print out that it's Monday. And if it's not 1, you can do an else if. Then day of the week 2. This is Tuesday, so let me see. If yeah, so like it's just basically putting an if in an else statement, not really like um yeah, I don't know, like kind of hard
If
to put in words.
if it's not
Uh
the first day of the week, then it's the second. And if it's not the second day of the week, then it's the third. And if it's not the third day of the week, then it's the fourth, all the way up to 7. And then each number represents the day of the week. So 1 is Monday, so you'll do system printout Monday. The second day of the week is Tuesday, third day Wednesday, and so on.
Yeah, so if you don't, when you have more than just the two options, right? So you did if and then you did an else. And in that you can only check, if a certain condition is true or if it's false. But if you wanted to check multiple things, like here you're checking it's 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, then if you combine it with a if, else, if, then it's efficient, and we'll talk about why we say that's efficient. Okay. So if you would, everybody's done, so if you would stop sharing.
Can I take a picture of
Sure.
this? I got it. Thank you.
I'm gonna go ahead and share what I have. Okay, so let's talk about why we decided to use else ifs. Okay, for example, I told you you can have, and you don't need to do this, actually, don't do this, but you can have, I told you, multiple ifs. Right? So why would we have else ifs if we can just do this? And I said, and this works, right? We can check if day of the week equal to 1, if it's 2, if it's 3, if it's 4, if it's 5. You'll see that programmatically everything will pretty much work the same. Okay, I entered 1, it printed Monday. I entered 6, it printed Saturday. So it works correctly. So why would we use, just take a wild guess. Why would we use else ifs instead of just multiple ifs?
If you're not typing 2, then you'll put in 3.
If I'm not typing,
Or um if you're not putting in the first day of the week, then you're putting in the second day of the week.
I think you're thinking on the right track. Because if I say I don't put in 1,
Uh-huh.
right? Okay, say I put in 1. Let's say I put in 1, okay? How is this program going to execute? If I put in 1, then it will come here. It will check if day of week equals 1. It will print Monday, okay? And then it will check this condition. It's not true, so it won't print anything. It'll come here, check this condition. It's not true, so it won't print anything. It will check this condition and this condition and this condition and this condition before the program ends. Okay? So how many times did it check a condition?
7 times.
It checked the condition 7 times. Whereas, I mean, the very first condition was true, right? And if the day of week is 1, can it be anything else?
No.
No, it cannot be anything else because we entered 1, it is Monday. It cannot be 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 because we entered 1, right? If we enter 2, sneeze coming, but it's not coming. If we enter 2, it will check day of week equal to 1, right? It'll check this condition, and then it will check the second condition, and then it will print Tuesday, right? But then it will also check 7 conditions, right? It'll also check every condition. Do you see that? This program will check every condition regardless of whether the first condition, whether the condition was met, right at the beginning or not. Okay, if there are no else ifs. If there are no else ifs, every if will be checked. Every condition will be checked, which is unnecessary. Right? So when you're writing a program, you're not just looking for, is this program correct? Yes, that's our first thing. We need our program to be correct. Our logic needs to be correct. It needs to do the things that it needs to do, right? But the second thing that you're looking at, and another important, just as important, is my program efficient? Right? Does it do what it needs to do with the minimal number of checking or of conditions? So you don't want to check a condition 7 times if you don't need to check that. So by adding the else ifs, what happens is it would check this condition, right? So if day of week is 1, it would print Monday, and then it will stop checking the rest of the conditions. The control will come here because they're all linked with the else ifs, right? So only if so did you get that? Let me repeat that. If day of week is 1, it would print Monday, right? And it will not check any other condition because we have the else ifs, because they're all linked together. Okay, so when you have a set of if and else ifs, then every condition is checked only until one of the conditions is met. When one of the conditions is met, the rest of the conditions are not checked. So let's say day of week is 2. It will check this condition and it will check this condition. Once this becomes true, none of the rest of the conditions will be checked. Did that make sense? So somebody talked to me about day of week 3. What happens if day of week is 3? Which conditions are checked if day of week is 3? And which conditions are not checked?
It will check the first day of the week and the second day of the week and then third, and then that's true, so then it doesn't do the rest.
Very good. Callista, do you want to do like 5? What happens?
It will check the first day of the week, second day of the week, third day, fourth day up until 5.
Yes, and it will not check 6 and 7.
Yeah.
Right? Only if it's the 7, then all 7 conditions are checked. Okay, so by using the else ifs, your code is more efficient. Okay, meaning there are less number of checks.
How can we put that like as a comment somewhere in here?
Yeah. Let's do that. I hope with this comment, I or write it in your own words. I hope this makes sense because this is important.
You said that the if and if else conditions are, or the if conditions are okay to do, but you want us to practice if else or else if.
It depends on the scenario. It depends on the scenario. So sometimes, like, and we'll do a problem. Maybe we can try that now. Let's see. This is an interesting problem that that kind of um, helps you to figure out, this is a simple problem. So calculate how much it costs to make a display sign. Cost depends on the number of letters, material of the sign, and the color of the sign. Okay, so you want to find out from the user how many letters they want in the sign, what material they want. So you can ask them to enter 1 for plastic, 2 for wood, and what color they like the lettering to be, right? 1 or 2. So your cost depends on the number of characters they want in the sign, number of letters, what material, whether it's plastic or wood, and then what color, right? So wooden sign is more expensive, gold lettering is more expensive. So there is a minimum cost for the sign, which is $30. It includes 5 characters. It's made of plastic. It has silver paint, right? So if your sign just had the word I don't know, STREET, no. House, right? If it just had said house, then it's just $30, right? But if it said like take an address, 3137 North 82nd Place. Let's say I wanted to print 3137 North 82nd Place, right? Then it includes 3137 North 82 and DEL. It's 11 characters. So if it's 11 characters, then every additional character, right? So I have 6 additional characters. It's 11 characters, so I have 6 additional characters. So for the 6 additional characters, it would be $5 per character, per extra character, right? So just do the cost it for me. So for I'll just give you an address and tell me what that would compute to be. So you put that on chat. So if I had okay, that's 11 characters. Let's say I want gold and I want wood. So how much is that? How much is that going to cost me? I put that in chat. 11 characters, wood and gold.
Are we actually writing the code or are we just calculating this?
No, I just wanted to calculate it.
Oh, would it be 95?
It'll be 95. Did everybody else come to the same conclusion? Okay, Callista. You're looking puzzled, Callista.
Yeah, because I was still in the middle of doing it, but
Okay. Okay.
yeah, I'm almost done.
So what I would like you to do is write a few test cases for this, and then start working on on this problem. Do you think you feel competent to do this, or we can do this in class tomorrow? I can give you simpler problems for homework, and then we can do something else in this time.
Simpler.
Simpler? Okay, we'll go with simpler. We can do this in class tomorrow. Let's see. Actually, I wanted to talk about scope. So let's talk about scope. Yeah, I'll give you these two problems for homework, which should be simple. It'll get age as input, determine whether the person can vote or not, program to get angles of a triangle from the user, check whether the triangle is valid or not. Sum of all angles should equal 180 degrees. Okay, so you just displace the triangle valid or not. But for, and I guess you can also do 8. Okay, so 5, 6, and 8 can be homework. And let's talk about scope now. So we skipped a few chapters here, and I think they talk about scope in chapter. They talk about scope in chapter 4. It's page 171. So if you will turn with me there, let's just talk a little bit about scope, because you need to understand scope once you start using, more than one pair of curly braces within the main method. Okay, so page 171. It says, within any class or method, the code between a pair of curly braces is called a block, right? We already talked about this. So this is a block. And when we write an if statement, right? So we said int length equal to 5. Right, that's it. Okay, right, this is the if block, right? So even without that, you can just have a block like that, which you shouldn't be doing, but this is called a block. Okay, so any pair of curly braces, it's called a block, right? So if it's within an if statement, it's the if block. So within any class or method, code between a pair of curly braces is called a block, or more completely, a code block. For example, in the figure that they have, or even here, there are a few blocks, right? This is the outer block, and this is the inner block, right? This is a pair of curly braces on the outside of this inner block, okay? And you can have several inner blocks. And so if I had another pair of curly braces inside this, then this is the inner block and this is the outer block, okay? So it's just relative. When you say inner block, outer block, it's just relative. So an outer block begins at the first opening curly brace, ends at the last closing curly brace. Inner block starts with the second opening curly brace, ends at the first closing curly brace. It contains, so we say this block is nested within this block, okay? We call this that nested. This is nested. This is inside. It is completely contained inside another block. Is when it is completely contained inside another block, we call it nested, right? And so I said we can write a nested if, right? So we can say if length less than 3, right? Then we have nested this if block within this other if block. So this is called nesting. So, and even within a pair of curly braces, it's nested. This if block is nested. This if statement is nested within this if statement. Okay. Now let's come to scope. The portion, and this is at the end of the page, the portion of a program within which you can refer to the variable is the variable scope. Okay, so the portion of the program within which you can refer a variable is the variable scope. So I'm just going to remove these outer blocks. So you can refer to length, within this block, you can refer to length within this block, and you can refer to length within this block. Okay, because the scope of length is you have declared length here in this outer block, and you can refer to length within all of this code. So this is the scope of length. Okay, so wherever you can refer to a variable is called the variable scope. Okay, so let's write that down. Variables scope is the portion. Okay, did everybody understand this so far? And I'll give you more examples of when this is not so, right? I mean, this is pretty obvious. You've used length all along. Length is accessible. You can refer to length anywhere, which means you can print system.out.print Fine. Fine. Right, let's make length 2. If length is 2, then which statements would be printed? Or how many times would length be printed if length is 2?
Once.
Twice, right?
Anybody else? Any other guesses?
Twice. Oh,
Twice, right? Because this condition is met. If length is less than 5, it'll print this, and then it'll check this condition. If length is less than 3, it prints this.
so if that was in the second one, second if that was a else if, would it stop at the first if?
So if there was an else if, the else if would be here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so else if length. Or if let's just say we had an else, or an else if, but if we had an else where length is right, so if it came to the else, it means that length is greater than 5. If it went inside this if, it means that length is less than 5. If it went inside this if, it means that length is less than 5. Not only is length less than 5, length is also less than 3. Right? So for example, if length was 4, what would happen? How many times would length print?
Three times or twice.
Still be twice, right?
How would it be twice? Tell me.
Oh wait, just once, because the second if it's greater than 3.
It's greater than 3. So this condition will not be met. Right, so it'll come, length is 4. Because length is 4, it'll come inside this if block, it'll print length. Right, and then it would come here, it would check it, like if length is less than 3, it's not. And so it will come to the end of this if block, and length is, this else is for length greater than 5, right? Length is not greater than 5, so it'll never go inside this if block, as this else block, and then it'll exit. Did you get that, Callista?
Kind of.
Okay, so think of this. This, it will only come into this if this else, this if is satisfied. Right, so it's nested. If this condition is met, and these lines of code will be executed only if this condition is met and this condition is met.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get it now.
And this is if this condition is not met, then it's this else. Length is greater than 5. Okay, so coming back to scope. So scope is the portion of the program within which you can refer to the variable, right? So length can be referred to everywhere. Here, 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 length, we have referred to length everywhere, right? Within this block, within this block, within this block. now let's say we created a variable within the if. Okay, let's just make it easy. I was going to create a variable within the inner if block, but let's say I created a variable here. So int size equal to 1. Okay, so I've created a variable called size. I'm going to print that variable right here. And that's fine. I can refer to size here. I can refer to size within this if as well. Okay, so I created the size within this block, so I can refer to it inside the same block, right? As this size was created inside this block, right? This is the block. So within this block, I can refer to it, and within its nested block, I can refer to size. If I try to refer to size within this block, size is not known, right? It says size cannot be resolved to a variable. Okay, because this block, you see, is outside of this block. Okay, so the scope of length is in the outer block, right? Length is in this block. So whatever is in the outer block, I'm just going to take away these spaces so you can see it all together. So since length is in this outer block, within this block, all blocks within it can access it. But size is within this block. So, and this else block is outside of this block, and so it cannot access it. So tell me if you understood it and if you can explain this back to me. Who would like to start? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a bunch of variables, okay? And I'm going to ask you the scope of that variable, okay? And each of you can take a turn. So if I create a variable here, so I'm going to create variables called number 1, number 2, number 3, okay? So int number 1 equal to 4. Can I refer to number 1 within this block, like here? Can I refer to number 1 here? Can I, if I print number 1 here, would it work?
No.
No. Then it says no. Who agrees and who doesn't agree? If you agree, give me a thumbs up. If you disagree, give me a thumbs down.
I disagree. Wait,
Okay, Renee, why? Why is this correct? And Tyler, why do you disagree?
So the if length greater than 3,
Mhm.
that it's right outside of the code block.
Yeah, it's so number scope is within this block alone, right? Because it's the innermost block. So it cannot be referenced here. So Tyler, you were wrong.
oh,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, it cannot be referenced here because it's outside of this block. Number 4 can only be referred to within this block, within its own block. Why? Because it's within the innermost block.
Gotcha.
Okay. So let's say okay, number 2. Can I reference number 2 within this block? So if I print number 2 here, would that work?
Yes.
Yes, everybody who agrees, thumbs up. Okay, so that's correct, right? Because the scope of number 2 is this entire thing, right? It can be referred to within this whole block because it's in the outermost block. It's in the outermost, it's within the method block, right? It's within this set of curly braces. Let's see, let's create. Okay, number 3. So can I refer to number 3 within this block? Can I refer to number 3 within this block?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct. Can I refer to number 3 within this block? So thumbs up if you agree, thumbs up if you don't agree, thumbs down if you don't agree. Can I reference number 3 within the else block? Number 3 is within the if block. It's within this block. Can I refer to it here? Tyler, what do you say? Can I refer to it here? Okay, so Renee, you were incorrect. So number 3, I cannot reference number 3 here. Why, Renee?
Because it's in a different block.
In a completely different block, right? So I cannot reference number 3 here. So that's block and scope, okay? And that's a very important concept to understand and remember. And we'll do a little bit more with it tomorrow. So I will get homework added for you. Let's see. I'd like you to do a little bit of reading as well of chapter 6. No, 5. No, 6. Alan, could you be doing the programming so instead of this, instead of what I'm assigning as homework, could you do problems maybe 3, 4, 5 from the back of the textbook, from the programming exercises for decision making?
You said from the back of the textbook or
No, I mean from the programming exercises for chapter 4.
chapter 4?
5,
Yeah,
5, 5, 5. Sorry, 5.
5. Okay.
Okay, so homework would be three programs. Alan, I'd like you to pick 3, 4, 5, or anything other than 1 and 2.
Okay.
Okay, any questions before we end class for today? Okay, just review what we did in class. Homework is going to be simpler than what we did. So review what we did, think about scope a little bit more. And I will, Calista, just stay for a minute. I'd like to complete your timesheet before you go. But yeah, the rest of you can go, and I will see you all tomorrow. And hope you feel better, Dine.